Natasha Phipps, thanks for joining me, Facebook and YouTube Live.
Thanks for having me here. Excited to be here.
So, we're talking about real estate, of course, real estate investing. You are definitely an expert in the world of real estate in Alberta, in Calgary. You're doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Now, let's start with some questions here about what's going on. There's lots of economic conditions that people have a tendency to paint the whole country with, but we know that's not the case. We look very regionally at what's going on, with the economics of the province, of the city, so that as a real estate investor, we can say, where is it going, not where it's been. And so when you look at what's happening in your area, what are you seeing economically for Alberta or for Calgary specifically even?
Yeah, I mean, there's no economic, coast to coast condition that applies. And so getting more specific and granular is really important when you're doing your due diligence on where you want to invest, even within the city. The numbers can be quite different even across a city. So from an economic standpoint, it's an interesting time here in Alberta because we are projected to sort of buck this trend that a lot of the rest of Canada is expected to kind of endure this year due to high interest rates and high inflation and all the things that we are dealing with. And from an economic standpoint, Alberta is sitting a little differently, which is nice. It's really nice. And a lot of Canadians are really looking to Alberta for investment opportunities. They're looking for places to maybe, park some money for a little while, or they're picking up and moving purely because they're trying to make more money sit in their pocketbook at the end of the month than they might be seeing elsewhere. Now, rents are definitely going up here. Purchase prices are definitely going up, but still in comparison, it is nowhere near as expensive to live. And when you look at things like GDP, that's a first indicator that things are having a good report card, and we're expected to kind of have that good report card, which leads to opportunity and higher wages and all of that. And then combining that with a lower cost of living, it's a really exciting time here.
Well, I mean, you're in the trenches every day. You're doing deals. You've got a lot of real estate activity going on. So, being in Calgary, we talk about immigration, we talk interprovincial migration. We see the numbers that are kind of heading into Alberta and Calgary specifically. I mean, Calgary's taking is definitely attracting the greatest amount of those new Albertans, if you will, new Calgarians. Can you actually feel it? Are you seeing the inquiries increase? Are you noticing the traffic increase? Like, are you actually feeling it and getting the sense that, holy cow, Calgary's really going through an economic change here?
Few things that I'm really noticing. One is on the property management side with our own properties, with the properties that we manage. We're managing close to 100 doors now. And the amount of inquiries from either new to Canada or moving from within Canada, like we're talking about, is substantial. It's at least 50% of the inquiries right now. I have 2 units I'm personally trying to rent right now, and it is substantially weighted in the number of people that are moving from outside of Calgary. And the vacancy is really reducing. So it's getting harder and harder for people to find a place to live here. They're having to maybe, make adjustments on what they would like to live in, or looking outside of the city, or having to change their plan, right? And if they have pets, that's another really difficult thing. That's a huge change from where we were a couple of years ago. And I'm even talking about downtown, like downtown condos, downtown apartments, where a few years ago the vacancy was incredibly high. So that's really kind of the first leading indicator, right? Just new people here.
But is this a case then, Natasha, when you talk about that, is this really a case of supply because your listings are not going up? People aren't selling. There's not enough new builds going on. So is supply still is that as big an issue as in Calgary as the headlines are talking about in other parts of the country?
It's a weird time in that, yes, certain things supply is a problem, which is mostly around the more affordable type of housing, right? In the average purchase price or less, it is very, very competitive for everything pretty well across the board. but then people are also a little tentative right now because of interest rates. So it's a bit of a weird time where it's almost a little bit hard to read as to what is the influencer there. Is it just super low inventory and everyone's sitting tight? Or is there a bit of hesitation? And then for investors who are investing from outside of Calgary, things like duplexes, fourplexes, the smaller residential stuff, like it is very, very tight. We're seeing multiple offers on that. Cash buyers just looking to put their money here and take advantage of something like that. And those inventory levels are super low.
Well,
So,
I mean, you make an interesting point. I mean, you just said a kind of you made an interesting observation, which is cash buyers. So they're not even at the effect of interest rates. And
yeah,
if they're coming from out of province, I mean, Calgary, even as high priced as Calgary is in Alberta, you got to look at Calgary from the perspective of somebody investing from British Columbia or somebody from Ontario investing. Those numbers seem pretty low. You're into the condo market, for 300,000, 250 to 400, and then you're
yeah.
in the detached world, single family or duplex detached. You're in that 650 range, 750. What kind of numbers are we looking at here, Natasha? You're the
Yeah,
local.
those condo numbers are pretty accurate. I mean, you can even get into the low 200s if you're in a newer, suburban type of condo. If you want downtown, short-term rentals are appealing right now because of higher rental rates, and
Yeah.
we've identified about 5-6 buildings downtown that we feel confident in.
Mhm.
But even those, you can get into something under 300,000. I mean, I know how you feel about condos, but
Yeah.
if that's all you can afford, at least you can buy something for 250, 270,000. Whereas, if you live in Toronto, that's like unheard of. So for them, they'd rather get into something than nothing. And if we can make the numbers work, even with a little bit of cash flow, then it's a huge win for them. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
And just for clarity, my view of condos in Alberta, in Calgary, is I can be very strong around Edmonton, for example. I'm from an
yeah,
investment point of view, I'm saying stay the hell away. Just stay away. I'll just leave it at that. But when it comes to Calgary, I'm more cautious around Calgary, knowing that it's a different culture, different market, different demographic, and I really do qualify that statement by saying if you're going to look at condos in Calgary, you better be talking to an expert, somebody like you who's in the trenches, who's an investor, who's a property manager, who understands that market, or you will get turned upside down. And Ontario has a tendency, people who live in Ontario are just driven by the price of what's going on in Calgary, and that's a dangerous game to play. That's all I'm suggesting in all of that. With somebody like yourself that is in the game every day, the nuances of the city, and that there's condos in the city of Calgary that you want to avoid. So just don't jump in because it's cheap, is guess what I'm saying.
Exactly. And with pre-construction in condos, you do need to be cautious. There's developers from Calgary, from outside of Calgary that have very attractive incentives. And I'm not, saying they're all no good. Some of them I really do like, but some of them just don't make sense in terms of the location and the price, and you just need to be cautious, right? So as you said, like dive deeper, ask someone from Calgary who knows it, what makes sense, right? Don't just look at the price, because the price is very attractive. But if that same unit right now is selling for, $75,000 less, 100,000 less across the street, that doesn't make sense. And so,
Pay attention.
Pay attention. Exactly. Yeah.
So, when you look at what's happening in the Calgary market today, and your sense of what's happening in Alberta, we look at economically, the conditions are very good. They continue to be very strong. There's work in the province, people moving there because, not only is the cost of living low, housing is low, relatively speaking. And of course, the jobs are plentiful. Now, when you look into the future and you see, based on what you see today, what do investors need to consider? Are you finding that interest rates are keeping people on the sidelines from selling? Because if you've got a house, or if you're living in a particular home, you're on, if I sell, then what am I going to do? I have to buy at some level. So are you optimistic about seeing some listings come on the market in the spring? Any kind of forecast for you, Natasha?
Yeah. So from the homeowner's perspective, there could be an opportunity where this spring, where someone coming from the average priced home and wanting to jump up in the market, we could see opportunity there, because the kind of higher priced homes, like, 800 and up, the market isn't nearly as tight. There's a lot more listings sitting there. Potentially, those owners are struggling with the high interest rates because they're on a variable mortgage and they're going, geez, I got to do something here. So that inventory is certainly higher. And so someone coming from the more competitive market in the average priced home can sell their home quickly for above, what they thought they could expect. Even though they have to pay the interest rate to move up, it could still be worth it. And we might see that this spring, where you see that kind of jump up buyer. And then in terms of the general market, I kind of expect it to, we'll have a tight spring in terms of conditions, but for the whole year, I'm not expecting to see the level of appreciation that we saw last year. We had a 12% year over year average increase in our benchmark price. I'm not expecting to see that again this year, but I do expect prices to kind of hold their own. And then there'll be little pockets and niches where it'll be extremely competitive due to affordability reasons, where people will be really needing to get into something. And they may have to as well, because the vacancy levels are low. They might be forced to buy sooner than they maybe had anticipated.
Now, as we go and we're, supporting, we've got the R4 conference coming up in like 10 days from now in February here. And I'll put a link in the body of all of this. But the question for you is, with Barry McGuire's coming out, he's going to be teaching, rent to own strategies and agreements for sale, wholesaling. As an investor yourself and as a kind of investor focused realtor, I mean, you're dealing with people from all over the country, given technology has really shrunk the world. But do you see opportunities in that space? Are you seeing those opportunities show up for a wholesale or agreement for sale, or even a rent to own? Like, what are you kind of feeling in the background, Natasha?
Yeah, I think there will be those types of opportunities. There's owners that have been, stuck with these interest rates that can't afford to sell, and they can't afford to also pay their payments. And so I'm starting to see definitely an uptick. We kind of work and keep an eye on with a few private wholesalers that I really like here in Calgary. And certainly there is some good opportunities coming through there. I've even had personal past clients reach out to me that said, this is the situation I'm in. Maybe a few years ago, they took out a line of credit, and now those payments are killing them. And it's put them in a very difficult situation. And so when those people start to get, I don't want to use the word desperate, but that stress starts sinking in, they're a lot more likely to look at that more creative type of, offering that might make things easy for them, where they can just, kind of walk away. So I think we will see that for sure. But
definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now you're going to be speaking at the R4. You're going to be doing a session at the R4, I believe, or you're going to be there for sure. What are you going to be talking about at the upcoming conference, Natasha?
So we have a couple things. One is we're in the marketplace of opportunities. We're going to be talking about one of my new offerings, which is a private REIT, a mutual fund trust. And we are offering investors a passive investment opportunity there into multifamily real estate in Alberta. So that's exciting. And then I'm on a panel with, I can't remember hosting it, but we're going to be talking about more creative type of deals and how to put them together with vendor take back, I think was the main
vendor
topic.
Take backs, yes.
Yeah. So I think that'll be really interesting too, from a realtor's perspective, what people I think should know when they go to present these types of deals.
Well, I think as always, what we say is that it's in these times of confusion, uncertainty, and a market that seems to be upside down, that investors can take some comfort in knowing that opportunities are going to present themselves. It's going to take a little extra work, and you're definitely going to need the right people on your team. I love the fact that you've got that new offering coming up, because the interest rates are deterring some investors, but in the other side of it, investors have hit that ceiling that they can't get another mortgage. Some just don't want to, but they got to put their capital to work, and they want to do it in real estate. And so these kind of offerings, in your case with a REIT, is just one of those opportunities to be able to put your money to work. So looking forward to hearing about that at the Marketplace of Opportunity at the R4 conference coming up. And Natasha, as always, appreciate your time and your insights. You're definitely an expert at what you do, and I'd love to have you on the show. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much.